What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of 𝐦𝐨𝐿 Knowledge. It's Top 5 Tuesday. We're going to be talking about some sexual astrology, and we'll be taking a look at the top 5 most sexual house positions in a woman's chart. So, let's get into it. Now, remember, I told y'all there is a bit of clickbait to this. This is not intended to literally rank the most sexual positions, but rather just through my experience as an astrologer and a human, my understanding of the science, giving out these fives, all right? So, but we're going to do them again, and we're going to do them in different ways, all right? Now, with that said, on the male video, we got quite a few ladies with Mars in the second. Mars in the 12th, Venus in the second, coming out, letting me know like, yeah, I had that position too. So always remember, everything is one and the same. I'm literally just doing this for perspective so we can think at a deeper level, like, okay, what is the difference between, let's say, Saturn in this house for a man versus Saturn in this house for a woman? And then you apply it. Oh, a woman who's this moon, a man who is that sun. So many different combinations. But as astrology goes through it, we find many correspondences. All right. So I figured I'd start with the undeniable ones. The undeniable ones. And we're going to start in the 8th house. House of, sex, death, transformation, intimacy, intense connections. And there we have Venus in the 8th house. Venus in the 8th house for a woman produces a woman who is very sexually aware. I'm sure you ladies will know these are the women who explored themselves early on, okay? Granted, other situations can occur in, traumatic situations and things like that, being sexually introduced that way. But it denotes sexual awareness in a woman. And rhythms. When I think about women, I think about rhythms. And when I think about the moon, I think about rhythms, ups, tides, downs. So with that awareness, and we're really talking about like sex drive here, right? So depending on the sign and aspects to this Venus in the 8th, you're going to get some very interesting sex drives as well as libidos and kinks and all of that. Now, the position is just naturally sexually explorative, but then in manifestation, how it works is that it's like these people, they got to come back, all right? To be very logical with you, they got to come back, and their partners know this. So beneath the surface, the aura is here in the 8th house, the Venus, in terms of attraction, attracts a certain type of way, and so it enables the sex life to really express the 8th house need for intimacy, right? So it's messing with these people. It's intense. If you've a dude who's, never really been sprung before, shoot, you haven't met a Venus in the 8th. Then I'm going to go over and I'm going to switch to moon in the 8th house. And like I said, in the spirit, I want y'all to think about it. These are the first 2 planets that I named, and I'm talking about women, Venus and the moon. So that's letting these are major indicators towards understanding a woman in general, but also, in the sexual manner. So moon is in regards to sexuality, is about being comfortable. It's about being safe and secure. There's an unconscious need or desire for the person with moon in the 8th house to have that. Now, what they relate that security and intimacy to will differ, but more times than not, once introduced to sex, they'll really take that as as their means of bonding or feeling grounded, feeling, people who need to have sex to kind of have that clarity. This is moon in the 8th house people for sure. But not just have that clarity, but feel secure. Okay, feel, I want to say wanted, but not in an ego way. Okay, because think about this, the moon here. But then on another level with moon in the 8th, these are people who are always horny. They're, because the moon is hormones, right, and it's here in the 8th house, that it's almost like a bottle, right? A bottle that can just bust at any moment. Okay? And what you'll have here is really at the root of it, the moon in the 8th house woman craves sex. But like I explained to you before, it's actually a little bit deeper than just the sex. But conditioning, psychological processes, moon, 8th house, intense shit. All right? So basically, with those two positions, it's like you're meant to explore your sexuality within this life. Me saying that doesn't mean go fuck everybody or be wild. No, it's about getting in tune with self. And in the 8th house, through self, you get to know others. You know what I'm saying? And there was an element what I was trying to say with Venus in the 8th house, through the partner's like possible clinginess with y'all learn elements of yourselves through others. And so there's an element to being able to attract what you want or what you need with that particular position. And then sometimes just attracting the shit that you brought to yourself. It's another story. Moving on. Let's go opposite. Let's go to the 2nd house. Pluto in the 2nd. This is one where it's going to be like this for men or women. But for women, as a guy, I know, like, I'm like, oh, okay. This is with or without me. A woman with Pluto in the 2nd is getting hers off. And I guess I would say this. If you look deeper, between the 2nd and the 8th, and exploring the relationship with sex, you can understand needs, how you're relating towards sex in the sense of needs and getting your needs met. There's a major difference between 8th and 2nd. And Pluto in the 2nd, like I said, for a woman, this is a woman who's also very sexually aware, but I would say sexually self-sufficient, okay? So this can be a very subtle sexuality. You may, unless you really know this person, or sexually involved with them, they may not like exude sexuality, but the sex drive and the desire and all of that is there. Very, very natural position. But like I said, think on these deeper. All right, next up, we got Mars in the 5th. And, as we mentioned before, Mars is the planet of sexuality, instinct, libido, all of that. And in the 5th house, it's very much so able to explore that. And the reason it's a bit more, I say, sexual in the sense for a woman here is because of, I say, how our society is set up. So women aren't necessarily meant to be, or aren't looked to be the initiators, but Mars in the 5th can be an initiator of that. So it represents expressing our creative will, or, in this case of Mars, desire, right? How do we go about our desires? These people, they like to date, right? So the 5th house in the sense of sexuality also corresponds to like casual sex. So dating, romance, all of that. So with Mars being energy, if you get a particular Mars here in, let's say, a Gemini, a Libra, an active house, experience is going to be had. That's just kind of how it goes. But very fun women, and women who are also explorative, which is important in terms of sexuality. Then the last position for this that I'll bring here to bring some perspective is the fourth house. And here in the fourth house, I'll give you some extra. I could go with Saturn or Jupiter here. Now, reminding you again, when I say very sexual, this can be in terms of actually having lots of sex or just sex drive, desire for it. But in this case of the fourth house, I want you to think hormones and biological clock. So we know that the fourth house is the house of mom, as well as home, family, all of that. There's something called a maternal instinct, right? And there's also something called sexual instinct and horniness that we now call it or whatever. So in the fourth house, when you have the position of like Saturn or Jupiter here, the biological clock is working in a way where it's like, oh yeah, we need to reproduce. So the desire for sex is going to naturally be there. But there's a whole lot. So this is not the casual shit. This is like, I know what I want. I want to be safe and secure. Like sex is just the part to get to the little part to get to the real important part, which is the duty of motherhood and really being able to play that role. Okay. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. All right, because I'm always trying to make you think about this in a deeper way. Okay, the surface level shit is cool. It focuses it for us. But when you're sitting there by yourself and you're really trying to understand someone, this stuff helps. All right. So this is my interpretation or my list